This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas. The information contained in this podcast is intended for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for individual professional legal advice. The podcast information was carefully compiled from vetted sources and references. However, R.O.S.E Resources Outreach to Safeguard the Elderly cannot guarantee that you will not fall victim to a scam. Let's talk about scams. It's the must-listen show for anyone who wants to protect themselves and their loved ones from scams. Every Tuesday at 8 a.m. Pacific Time on K4HD Radio, Joyce Petrowski, founder of R.O.S E, and her guests will provide valuable insights and practical tips on how to recognize and protect yourself from scams. And now, here is your host, Joyce Petrowski.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Let's Talk About Scams. My name is Brian Watson. I'm a community outreach specialist for R.O.S.E Resources Outreach to Safeguard the Elderly, and I'm filling in for Joyce Petrowski today. I'm actually filling in for Joyce for several weeks. She's given me keys to the radio show, and we got a bunch of great episodes coming up. And today, we are going to start. Today's topic is 5 signs that you are being scammed. I've been working for R.O.S.E for almost 2 years now. And what's really struck me is the amount of extremely smart people that have been scammed. To be honest, I was expecting to run into a few people that had some cognitive decline, who were getting older, just couldn't handle their finances, but that's not been the case. So I've seen a lot in the last 2 years, and I want to talk about just some patterns that I'm seeing. So we're going to talk about 5 signs that you're being scammed. We could have done 10 or 15, but I wanted to keep it nice and tight, keep it at 5. So let's talk about these trends. They're in no particular order, but let's start with number 1. First sign that you are likely being scammed is someone you don't know is calling you on your phone incessantly. They're calling from different phone numbers. They're not giving you a break. They're telling you what to do. They're being bossy. They're being demanding. They're creating that sense of panic. That's just not normal. That's what scammers do. I've heard so many stories of scammers calling people up and just not letting them get a break because they don't want you to talk to someone else. They don't want you to, get a second opinion. The longer they have you on the phone, the more likely they're going to take your money. So the key is to disengage right away. Don't let them get to that point because they walk you down that path and they have you. At a certain point, it's hard to get off that path. You remember, time is your friend. You don't have to act immediately. You need to end that conversation and ask for help. Even if you have to lie, make something up. Say, you know what? I have a family member coming over. I have another call coming in. But just break this cycle, what's going on. Just to give you an example, I spent my career as a special agent with the IRS. And the IRS impersonation scam was going on years ago. And I was at the office one day with a coworker. We had just finished lunch. We're kind of hanging out. His phone rang, and it was a scammer telling him he owed money to the IRS, which was kind of funny to think because we were both IRS special agents at the time. And they would just not let my friend have a break. They told him what to do. They said he needed to get in his car and drive down and buy a prepaid card to pay his bills. And even when my friend lied and said he didn't have a car and that he was handicapped, they didn't care. They kept him on the line. And that's the thing. You need to break that cycle, because if you're allowed to hang up or you stop talking to them, you'll get your wits back and realize things aren't right. So that was number one. Someone you don't know is calling you incessantly from different phone numbers and not giving you a break. All right, let's move on to number two. Someone you is telling you not to talk to someone else. Why would they do that? That's the kind of creepy, abusive language that child predators use and other victims. They want to keep you isolated. The goal of financial predators is to control you, force you to make bad decisions, and then ultimately steal your money, because that's what all criminals do. They lie to you and they steal your money. This is why people tragically fall victim for the grandparent scam, because they will call you up, pretend to be someone calling from a jail, saying your grandchild's in jail and that you need to send money right away. And this happened to someone I know here in Arizona. And this is what they told him. They said the judge has put a gag order in place and you aren't allowed to talk to someone else. So, how convenient is that for the criminal? They're saying it's against the law to talk to someone else. So he didn't. He stayed on the line. He ended up wiring this $15,000 and he never got it back. But if he had talked to someone else, they would have said, Dad, you're being scammed. That's a scammer. But that's what they want to do. Speaking of the grandparent scam, I once heard a story from some law enforcement officials in northern Arizona. One of their residents in I think it was Yavapai County, he received the grandparents' call, and the scammers told him that his grandchild was in Mexico, and he started driving from northern Arizona down to Mexico, and because he believed it, and he didn't talk to anyone else. Somehow, some way, they were able to intercept him, talk to him, find him, and they broke that cycle. But so that was number two. If someone is telling you not to talk to someone else, that's a red flag. Anything that's legitimate, you should have time to think about. You can have a second opinion, sleep on it. Whenever you make a big purchase, if you're going to go buy a car, you don't have to buy it immediately. You can go sleep on it. You can go look at other places. So break that cycle. So that was number two. All right. Moving on to number three. If you find yourself um, at your bank withdrawing cash while on the phone, while someone is coaching you what to say, I guarantee you are being scammed. And I hear this story all the time. Um, Scammers obviously want money. And where's money? Money's at the bank. And you can only take out so much cash from your ATM. Usually the daily max is around $300. Well, scammers aren't happy with $300. So to get more than $300, you have to go inside the branch. And but if you go into a branch and ask to withdraw, $5,000, $10,000, they're going to ask questions. Why? Because that's their job. They take care of their customers. And the people at the bank are trained. They're trained to spot scams. And it's just not normal for someone to walk into a bank and ask for a lot of cash. So criminals are prepared. So they will coach you. They will tell you what to say. They will stay on the phone with you. And so if the banker says, why are sir or ma'am, why are you withdrawing so much cash? They will have a lie prepared. One of the common ones is, I'm buying a used car, and the person doesn't want to check, they want cash. Okay, sounds pretty legitimate. But they'll keep asking more and more questions. I mean, ultimately, it's your money and they can't stop you from withdrawing cash. But if they suspect a scam, um, they will try to stop you. Another one is, I'm withdrawing cash to do some home improvements. So where I live here in Arizona, I have a banker friend, and she told me the story where this gentleman came in and was withdrawing a really large amount of cash, and he said it was for home improvements. Well, she knew where he lived. He lived in a retirement community where he rented. So there would be no reason in the world for him to do home improvements. So she knew her customers, she intervened, but that's what they do. Another thing they'll do, still talking about number three, being at the bank and withdrawing cash. The scammer, if things aren't going right with the teller, um, they will instruct you to go into the restroom for privacy and talk on the phone. They'll instruct you to go outside to your car and, so they can coach you. But that's it. Once again, how do you break this cycle? You got to hang up and talk to someone else. And I know it's scary, um, but be prepared for that call and be prepared to hang up. Because who is your phone a friend? Joyce and I talk about this all the time. We all have to have a phone a friend. And that was from the show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? If you didn't know the answer to something, your best bet was to have your smartest friend on hold. So I'm not telling you you have to have that person on hold all the time because that's just not practical. But in your contacts, you should have a friend and you should talk about this ahead of time. And you can have a friend where you help each other out. But I recommend a family member, someone you've known obviously a long time, or a family friend, someone you've known since high school or college, and help each other out. You know what? Every friend I know, every person I know would love to stop a scam in progress. So that was number three. If you are at a bank withdrawing cash and someone's telling you what to do, I guarantee you you're being scammed. All right. So that leads in to the fourth sign that you are being scammed. And if you ever find yourself putting cash, currency, into a Bitcoin ATM at a local convenience store or smoke shop or mall, you are doing something wrong. Now, let's just back up a second. What is a Bitcoin ATM? Well, Bitcoin is one of the thousands of cryptocurrencies, and Bitcoin has the largest market share. They're at like 60%. So when I say Bitcoin ATM, um, I'm not picking on Bitcoin, but those are the most prevalent ATMs. So I've been to the Tucson Mall in Tucson, Arizona, and there is a Bitcoin ATM. And it looks like an ATM, automated teller machine, that you would see at your local bank or credit union. And it says Bitcoin on it. And you walk up to it, and what you do is you can log in into your account. Usually that's using one of those QR codes, that black and white square. And scammers will give you that. And so from now on, we'll just call it a cryptocurrency ATM. But let's say, why would a scammer send you there? So this is like a scenario. Um, they'll say you get a phone call and it's someone from the sheriff's department, sheriff's office, or the police department, and they say you've failed to show up for jury duty, and there's a warrant out for your arrest. But they'll say, you know what, we can take care of this right now if you pay money. So how do you pay money? A variety of different ways. They might ask for a prepaid card, wire transfer, cash. But the thing we're seeing now is they'll instruct you to go down to this cryptocurrency ATM, and they'll tell you the location at this convenience store on this corner, and they will send you one of those QR codes on your phone. They'll text it to you. So that what they want you to do, go to your bank first, withdraw all that cash, and if you're able to withdraw the cash without the teller convincing you it's a scam, they have you drive down to that cryptocurrency ATM, scan the QR code right in front of the little ATM at the Bitcoin ATM, and then you start entering cash. Okay. If you're doing that, you are being scammed. Now, are cryptocurrency ATMs illegal? No, absolutely not. It's just a way to invest in cryptocurrency, and some people do that. But in my view, from being a law enforcement officer, former law enforcement officer, and now being with R.O.S.E for almost 2 years. This is a scam. I don't like these machines because I see them as fraud receptacles or machines that allow fraud to take place. And they're just scam machines. So, but this is what scammers do. The typical thing is they want people to pay in a way that they're not familiar with. We are all familiar with cash and check and credit card, debit cards, things like that. But they want you to use those prepaid cards. They want you to use Zelle. They want you to use wire transfers and things like that. So just as a quick example of putting cash into an ATM or a crypto ATM up in Phoenix, I met a lady. She received a phone call and they said it was her bank security department. She said there was an insider at the bank trying to take her money, that she needed to move it somewhere safe. She went to her bank, withdrew all the cash that she needed. And again, they told her to lie, which was number 3 on our scams, that you were pulling out money to buy a car. And then she went down to a specific cryptocurrency ATM and deposited her cash. She did this 13 times, lost $200,000. It's absolutely tragic. But that's one of the biggest scams we're seeing right now, is anything involving cryptocurrency ATMs. So that was number 4. If you ever find yourself putting cash into a cryptocurrency ATM at a local store, you are doing something wrong. You are being scammed. All right, last one, number 5. We're talking about remote access, and I'll explain what that is. But if someone is asking for remote access to your computer, you are being scammed. Remote access is basically giving someone permission to be on your computer from somewhere else. Now, why would we need remote access? Let's say you work for a company and you have an IT person and you're having issues with your computer. You need to update a program. Um, they will reach out to you. They'll send you a little message that pops up. Brian, can I have remote access to your computer? And you click yes. And then they do all this stuff in the background. Totally legitimate. It's great technology. Well, unfortunately, the criminals know how to do remote access. But allowing remote access is basically the same thing as letting a criminal have unfettered access to all of your finances. And if you saw the movie The Beekeeper from 2024, in the movie, the criminals end up getting remote access to the victim's computer, and they were able to start moving money around. Um, that's the way it happens in the real world. They do that. Now, the scammers, here's the important thing. They're not going to say, Mr. Watson, I need remote access to your computer. Um, they will say something like, it'll all start with a scam where you're owed a refund. Because, how can you be scammed if you're getting a refund? They don't do that, but you'll get an email or a text message saying, we're from this company and we overcharged you and we need to pay you back. So you call them and say, I'm calling about my refund. They say, okay, great, let's do this. And then you ask, can I get a check or a credit on my account? And they'll say, no, no, no. Our company policy requires you to request the refund. This is the only way it can be resolved. Huge red flag. So the scammers will send you a little email, or not an email, but a little pop-up on your computer, and then you end up clicking yes. And then let's say they owe you $20. You type in 20 on your computer, but then they add a number or 2 or 3. So that $20 becomes 20,000. And then they'll say, you know what? We just made a huge mistake. You need to pay us back. And the guy on the phone will say, if you don't pay me the money back, I'm going to be fired. They pull on your heartstrings. And in the background, since you've given them remote access, they can move money from your checking account to your savings account to make it look like they actually did put that 20,000 in your checking account, but they didn't. They're just, it's a shell game. They're moving the money around. And then at that point, they want the cash. So they take you back to number 4 on our list today. They'll send you to that cryptocurrency ATM to deposit $20,000. So all these scams are tied together. They're all related. Um, it's That's just the way they work. So, but this happened to my friend's mother-in-law here in Tucson. She had a Norton subscription. They said she was due a refund. She said, okay, the little pop-up came up, and she said when she typed in the $20, it instantly became the 20,000. And they ended up having her go to her bank and wire transfer the money overseas, and she lost that money. And I tell you, she's a very smart lady. So that was number 5. When someone is asking for remote access, don't give it. Stop the cycle. All right. So we always end with common sense advice. So when in doubt, hang up your phone, stop texting with someone, stop emailing with someone, um, talk to that family member or trusted friend. If it's technology, I know I call my son because he's the technology wizard. But you know what? Like I could call Joyce. Joyce could call me from R.O.S.E because we see these scams. I can reach out to my parents. They can reach out to me. You know what? And if you don't have someone that's available at the moment, call your local police department, call your sheriff's department. Every law enforcement agency I know would gladly help someone on the front end and prevent a scam than trying to track down the money later. And just remember, scammers are financial predators that always use urgency to get their victims to make bad and poor decisions. They're better at this than you are. We're all rookies when it comes to scams. When compared to the scammers out there, they are at the PhD level, and like we're still in kindergarten at times. So they're using scripts. They're basically actors reading from scripts, and they know exactly what to say and what works. So in the past 2 years, working for R.O.S E, as I mentioned at the top of the show today, everyone I've met has been smart, educated, financially independent. That's what surprised me. And if they can get all these smart, financially educated, and independent people, they can get all of us. It doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are, how much money you have, they're coming after all of us. Our passion is that anyone seeing this radio show today won't get scammed. And we want you to share this with someone. Send the link to someone you know and love. You will be doing them a big favor. And please go to our website, roseadvocacy.org. There's the website scrolling across the screen. Bookmark it, watch some of our videos on there, share it with friends. And we really want you to sign up for our monthly email. It goes out at the beginning of the month. It's got all the latest scams and other techniques. And then as a bonus, every Tuesday morning, we send out a little tax tip. I'm sorry. I used to work for the IRS. I'm sorry. And it's early. A little scam prevention tip. And they're short and sweet. Share them with your friends. Just really, really, really good advice. I will be back next week on July 15th. The title of the show is Don't Panic When Your Computer Wails. And this is a story of a pop-up that happened to my mom with a siren, okay? And it was scary, and I can't wait to tell the story. So please tune in on July 15th when we talk about pop-ups and what to do. And it's just a scary story, but it has a happy ending. I like good stories, and it's got a very good teaching moment that we can do. So thank you all for tuning in today. I appreciate your attention. And we'll see you on July 15th. Thank you for watching Let's Talk About Scams.
Well, that's all the knowledge for this episode. Tune in every Tuesday at 8 a.m. Pacific Time on K4HD Radio at k4hd.com as Joyce explores a variety of knowledge so you have the power to make scam protection your healthy habit. And until then, feel free to reach out to Joyce and let's talk about scams.